The winds of Arcturus 7 howled across the frozen wasteland, but Kai Nakamura barely noticed the sub-zero temperatures through his environmental suit. 3 years of deep space exploration had taught him to trust his equipment, even when the conditions outside could freeze exposed flesh in seconds. His scanner beeped insistently, detecting unusual energy readings from a nearby ravine. The Galactic Council had marked this planet as uninhabitable, but Kai had learned long ago that uninhabitable was a relative term. Growing up on Earth's recovering climate zones had given him a different perspective on survival. As he approached the ravine's edge, movement caught his eye. A figure emerged from the swirling snow, tall and graceful despite the harsh conditions. Their armor was unlike anything he'd seen before, seemingly grown rather than manufactured, with organic curves that reminded him of coral formations. The figure stopped, clearly noticing him. For a moment, they stood studying each other across the windswept ice. Then the stranger's helmet retracted, revealing features that were decidedly alien yet somehow familiar. Silver-scaled skin that shifted colors like the aurora above, eyes with vertical pupils that reflected the pale sunlight, and a face that managed to convey both strength and curiosity. "You're not dead," the alien said in perfect galactic standard, surprise evident in their melodic voice. No environmental suit should be functioning in these temperatures. Kai retracted his own helmet, grinning as the bitter cold kissed his face. "Earth-made. We tend to over-engineer everything." He watched with interest as the alien's eyes widened at his casual exposure to the elements. "I'm Kai Nakamura, independent explorer." "Naira Voss," she replied, moving closer with predatory grace. "You're human." It wasn't a question. "I've heard stories, but I never thought." She trailed off, studying him with new intensity. "And you're Serenian," Kai said, recognizing her species from his xenobiology studies. "Supposed to be extinct after your homeworld was destroyed." "Guess we're both surprises." Naira's scaled skin rippled with iridescent patterns. "My people once ruled a dozen systems, before the cataclysm. Now I'm the last, or so I thought." "But you." She circled him slowly. "You're the first being I've met who isn't crippled by this environment." "Deathworlders tend to be hard to kill," Kai replied, tracking her movement. There was something captivating about her predatory confidence, a recognition of a kindred spirit. "Though I have to admit, I didn't expect to find another one out here." A sudden tremor shook the ground, and both of their helmets snapped back into place instantaneously. Kai's scanner screamed warnings as massive energy readings erupted from beneath the ice. "The temple," Naira breathed, her voice tight with urgency. "It's awakening. After all these centuries." She turned to Kai, decision clear in her stance. "You survive this cold without difficulty. Can you fight?" Kai checked his weapon systems with practiced efficiency. "Grew up fighting everything Earth could throw at me." "Why?" "Because," Naira said, as the ice began cracking beneath their feet, "we're about to meet the guardians my ancestors left behind. And they only respect strength." Her armor shifted, revealing built-in weapons that hummed with deadly energy. "Fight with me, human, and I'll share secrets your people have only dreamed of." The ice shattered, revealing ancient mechanisms awakening from their frozen slumber. As monstrous shapes began emerging from the depths, Kai found himself grinning behind his helmet. This was exactly the kind of trouble he'd hoped to find out here in the unknown. "Lead the way," he said, weapons charging. "Always wanted to explore a lost temple." Together they leaped into the breach, two children of unforgiving worlds about to discover just how much they had in common. The frozen wastes of Arcturus 7 were about to witness something unprecedented, a human and a Serenian fighting side by side, defying the impossible as only Deathworlders could. Naira's laughter, fierce and wild, mixed with the howling wind as they descended into the ancient depths. "Perhaps the universe has a sense of humor after all," she called out. "Bringing together its two most stubborn children." Kai couldn't help but agree as they plunged into the unknown together. Sometimes the greatest discoveries weren't places or artifacts, but the connections forged in the crucible of adversity. And something told him this was just the beginning of a partnership that would reshape the galaxy's understanding of what was possible when Deathworlders united. The ancient temple's interior pulsed with bioluminescent light, casting eerie shadows across walls covered in shifting geometric patterns. Kai and Naira moved in perfect sync, their combat training evident in every step as they descended deeper into the structure. These markings, Kai observed, his sensors recording everything, they're responding to our presence. Naira's scaled skin rippled with patterns that seemed to echo the walls. The temple is alive, after a fashion. My ancestors built these places as proving grounds. She paused at an intersection, her head tilted as if listening to something beyond human perception. Only those worthy can reach the central chamber. A resonant boom echoed through the corridors, and the floor beneath them began to reconfigure itself. Walls shifted, corridors sealed, and suddenly they found themselves in a vast circular arena. The temperature dropped even further, frost crystallizing on their armor. Worthy, huh? Kai checked his weapons, noting how the arena's patterns were beginning to glow brighter. Let me guess, this is where we prove ourselves. Indeed. Naira's voice held a mix of anticipation and concern. The trials were designed for Serenians. No other species has ever survived them. She turned to face him fully. You can still leave. There would be no shame in it. Kai's response was interrupted by the emergence of their first challenge. From recessed chambers around the arena, crystalline constructs began to form, living ice given purpose and deadly intent. They moved with liquid grace, their forms constantly shifting between solid and semi-solid states. Ice golems, Naira breathed. The easiest of the trials, yet they've killed countless warriors. Kai's grin was audible in his voice. Then let's show them what Deathworlders can do. The battle erupted with explosive force. The ice constructs were blindingly fast, but both Kai and Naira were products of worlds that forgave no weakness. They moved as one, covering each other's blind spots with an instinctive understanding born of similar evolutionary pressures. Kai's plasma cutter sliced through one golem while Naira's energy blade shattered another. The fragments tried to reform, but the heat from their weapons kept them destabilized. Back to back, they carved through the onslaught with devastating efficiency. You fight well, human, Naira called out, her blade describing lethal arcs through the air. Almost like a Serenian. You're not so bad yourself, Kai replied, ducking under her swing to take out a golem trying to flank them. For someone who thought she was the last Deathworlder. The last construct fell, its fragments scattering across the frost-covered floor. But before they could catch their breath, the arena began to change again. The temperature plummeted even further, and the walls started secreting a familiar substance. Cryogenic acid, Naira warned, her armor adapting to the new threat. It'll eat through standard protection in seconds. Kai's suit immediately adjusted its shield harmonics. Good thing Earth's oceans taught us about corrosive defense. He watched as the acid began forming into humanoid shapes, more sophisticated than the ice golems. Ready for round 2? Naira's laugh was fierce and delighted. You continue to surprise me, Kai Nakamura. Perhaps the universe knew what it was doing when it brought us together. The acid warriors attacked with coordinated precision, their forms rippling with deadly purpose. But where the ice golems had been straightforward opponents, these required a different approach. Each hit that landed caused their armor's protection to weaken incrementally. The central platform, Naira called out between exchanges. We need higher ground. They fought their way toward the elevated center of the arena, covering each other's retreats and timing their attacks to maximum effect. The acid warriors pursued relentlessly, their numbers seemingly endless. Reaching the platform, they found themselves surrounded. Kai's suit integrity was down to 60%, Naira's armor showing similar signs of stress. But instead of concern, they felt only the exhilarating thrill of true challenge. My ancestors believed that real strength emerges only in the face of impossible odds, Naira said, her scaled skin glowing with combat-fueled intensity. On Earth, we have a saying, Kai replied, adjusting his weapons to a new configuration. The harder the fight, the sweeter the victory. Their eyes met in a moment of perfect understanding. Then, moving in perfect synchronization, they launched a counterattack that would have been suicide for any non-Deathworlder species. The Acid Warriors fell before their combined onslaught, unable to adapt to the unpredictable patterns of two apex predators fighting as one. As the last enemy dissolved, the platform beneath them began to descend. The trial wasn't over, but they had passed a crucial test. In the brief respite, Naira turned to Kai with new respect in her gaze. I've dreamed of reclaiming my people's legacy for so long, she said softly. I never imagined I would find an equal partner in a human. The galaxy's a big place, Kai responded, checking his weapons while maintaining eye contact. Maybe it's time both our species stopped thinking we have to face it alone. The platform continued its descent into the temple's depths, where greater challenges awaited. But now they faced them not as mere allies of convenience, but as something more, two souls forged in the crucible of unforgiving worlds, discovering that sometimes the greatest strength lies in finding someone who truly understands what it means to survive against all odds. The platform finally came to rest in a vast chamber that defied the laws of physics. Crystalline structures floated in mid-air, each containing what appeared to be star maps and ancient data streams. The temperature had stabilized, though still cold enough to kill most species instantly. The archive, Naira breathed, her scaled skin reflecting the ethereal light. I never thought, it actually exists. Kai's sensors were overwhelmed by the amount of data surrounding them. Your ancestors left all this here. Protected by those trials. Before Naira could respond, a holographic figure materialized before them, a Serenian elder, their scales shimmering with wisdom and age. Authentication confirmed. Dual species recognition, Serenian and human. Probability of this convergence, infinitesimal. Beginning historical record playback. The chamber filled with images of ancient battles, showing both Serenian and human ships fighting against a common enemy, though these events had occurred millennia before humanity reached the stars. That's impossible, Kai muttered, watching as the scenes unfolded. We weren't even space-capable when this was recorded. Because it hasn't happened yet, Naira realized, her eyes wide. This isn't just an archive, it's a prophecy engine. My ancestors saw through time itself. The Elder's hologram spoke again. The convergence was foreseen. Two Deathworld species, evolved separately but destined to meet. The greatest threat to all life approaches, and only the combined strength of Earth and Saran's children can hope to stand against it. More images filled the chamber, a darkness between galaxies, moving with terrible purpose. Entire civilizations falling before it, their sophisticated technology useless against something that defied comprehension. The void harmony, the Elder continued. A consciousness that feeds on order, reducing all it touches to primordial chaos. It comes now, drawn by the galaxy's rising complexity. All our attempts to prevent this future failed. Our only hope lay in preparing the way for those who might have the strength to fight it. Kai and Naira exchanged glances, reading the same determination in each other's eyes. Your extinction wasn't natural, Kai said quietly. You sacrificed your entire civilization to set this up. To forge the tools needed, Naira added, her voice thick with emotion. The trials, the temples, the hidden caches of technology, all waiting for this moment. The hologram nodded. We seeded both your worlds with challenges, guided your evolution from afar. Every hardship that made your species strong was orchestrated for this purpose. The guilt of this burden has haunted our final days, but the alternative was the death of all things. More data streams coalesced around them, showing the locations of other temples, other caches of ancient technology and knowledge. But they also showed something else, movements in the present, other forces already mobilizing. We're not the only ones who know about this, Kai realized, noting familiar signatures. The Galactic Council has been infiltrated, Naira finished grimly. Some welcome the void harmony, seeing it as a path to transcendence. They've been working to prevent this meeting, to keep our species isolated and ignorant of each other. The Elder's hologram began to fade. The knowledge is transferred. The tools are provided. The choice, as it must be, remains yours. But know that you stand here together not by chance, but by the desperate hope of a dying race that saw two flames burning bright against the coming darkness. As the hologram vanished, the chamber's crystals began to pulse with new energy. Streams of data poured into both their suits, upgrading their systems with technology centuries beyond anything currently known. Well, Kai said, feeling the power now humming through his enhanced armor, I guess we've got a galaxy to save. Naira's laugh held equal parts excitement and deadly purpose. Think of it as a challenge, human. The kind only Deathworlders could hope to face. Together, Kai added, extending his hand. Naira took it, her scaled fingers intertwining with his. Together, she agreed. Now, shall we go disappoint some counselors who thought they could keep us apart? They made their way toward the chamber's exit, new power flowing through their veins and ancient knowledge filling their minds. The galaxy's greatest powers had conspired to prevent this moment, fearing what might happen when two Deathworld species joined forces. They were right to be afraid. The Galactic Council's central spire on Nexus Prime was considered impregnable, its defenses calibrated to stop any known species from unauthorized entry. But they had never faced two Deathworlders equipped with ancient Serenian technology. Kai and Naira moved through the security systems like ghosts, their enhanced armor rendering them virtually invisible to conventional sensors. 3 days had passed since they'd left the temple, and in that time, they'd already prevented 2 assassination attempts by Council loyalists. Security hub ahead, Kai whispered through their private channel. 20 guards, all augmented with void-touched tech. Naira's scales shifted to match the corridor's shadows perfectly. They're getting desperate, using that corruption so openly. Ready to show them what real power looks like. The fight was brief but intense. The void-enhanced guards moved with unnatural speed, their bodies warped by dark energy. But against 2 apex predators working in perfect synchronization, they never stood a chance. As the last guard fell, Naira accessed the hub's mainframe. The council is holding an emergency session, she reported, data streaming across her HUD. They're voting to open the void gates early. If they succeed, the Harmony gets in ahead of schedule. Before we're ready, Kai finished, securing the perimeter. How long? 1 hour. And the chairman is already compromised. Naira's voice held both rage and determination. The signs were there all along, the push for peaceful integration with the void, the systematic suppression of Deathworld species. We were meant to be weakened, isolated, unable to fight back. Kai moved closer, placing a hand on her armored shoulder. The contact sent sparks of energy between their enhanced suits. But we're not. And now we know why your ancestors chose this path. He paused, studying her face behind her partially transparent helm. Having second thoughts about throwing in your lot with a human? Naira's laugh was fierce and warm. Never. The prophecy was right about everything else, why not about us? Her scaled hand found his, squeezing with enough force to crush standard armor. Besides, who else could keep up with me? Their moment was interrupted by a massive tremor that shook the entire spire. Emergency alerts blared as the void-touched council members began their endgame. They're opening the gates now, Naira snarled, reading the data feeds. They're not even waiting for the vote. Then we do this the hard way. Kai's enhanced armor reconfigured for maximum combat efficiency. Through the main chamber. Through the main chamber, Naira confirmed, her own armor shifting to match his. Let them see what they've feared all along, Deathworlders united, standing against the darkness they thought they could control. They moved through the spire's grand corridors, no longer hiding. Council security forces fell before them, their weapons useless against ancient Serenian shielding. Other guards, seeing the void corruption spreading through their ranks, actually stepped aside. The massive doors to the council chamber were sealed with void energy, the metal writhing with dark purpose. Kai and Naira shared a look, centuries of inherited knowledge flowing through their enhanced minds. Together, he asked, channeling power to his gauntlets. Together, she replied, her scales blazing with bioluminescent energy. They struck the doors simultaneously, their combined strength enhanced by technology that had waited millennia for this moment. The void-touched metal screamed as it gave way, revealing the chaos within. The council chamber had become a nightmare of twisted physics and corrupted reality. At its center, the chairman floated above a growing portal of pure darkness, his body barely recognizable as organic anymore. "Too late, Deathworlders," he called out, his voice resonating with impossible harmonics. "Your kinds were never meant to meet. Never meant to unite. The void offers perfection through chaos, and you cannot stop its embrace." Naira's combat systems analyzed the spreading corruption while Kai assessed the structural damage. They had minutes, at most, before the portal became self-sustaining. "Any last words?" Kai asked, preparations already running through both their systems. Naira turned to him, her scaled face fierce with emotion. "Just these, I'm glad it's you I'm facing this with." Then they charged forward together, two children of unforgiving worlds about to show the galaxy why Deathworlders were never meant to be underestimated. The void waited, but they faced it as one, exactly as ancient seers had foreseen. The void portal pulsed with impossible colors as Kai and Naira fought their way through waves of corrupted council guards. Their enhanced armor, powered by ancient Serenian technology, glowed with protective energies that pushed back against the encroaching darkness. "The containment field is failing," Kai called out, his sensors detecting critical instabilities in the chamber's structure. "We've got minutes before total collapse." Naira's scaled skin blazed with bioluminescent patterns as she accessed the inherited knowledge flowing through their systems. "The Serenians left us one last gift. But using it." She struck down a void-touched attacker without breaking stride. "The power requirement would burn out our enhanced systems. Maybe us with them. Better than letting the void harmony through," Kai replied, understanding in his voice. They moved in perfect sync, covering each other's blind spots as they fought closer to the portal's edge. The chairman, now more void than being, laughed with multiple voices. "Your species were mistakes," he howled. "Evolutionary dead ends that should have perished on your brutal worlds. The void offers perfection." "Funny thing about Deathworlders," Kai shot back, charging his gauntlets with devastating energy. "We tend to disappoint people who want us dead." The chamber's reality began to fragment as the portal widened. Gravity shifted wildly, architecture twisted into impossible shapes, and the very air seemed to scream with dimensional stress. But where others would have faltered, two children of unforgiving worlds pressed forward. "The convergence point," Naira said, her eyes meeting Kai's through their helms. "Just like the prophecy showed us. Our combined energy signatures could collapse the portal," Kai finished. "Or tear this whole place apart." "Together?" she asked, reaching for his hand. "Together," he confirmed, taking it. Their enhanced armor synchronized, ancient technology recognizing the moment it was built for. Power surged between them, their natural Deathworlder resilience amplified by centuries of waiting Serenian science. The void portal pulsed hungrily, sensing their intention. "You cannot stop evolution," the chairman screamed, void energy writhing around him. "The galaxy must transcend." "No," Naira replied, her voice carrying the weight of two species' determination. "The galaxy must survive. And that's what Deathworlders do best." They struck as one, channeling power that should have torn them apart. Their combined energy signature created a counter-resonance to the void's chaos, order and strength born from worlds that forged their children in adversity's flames. The portal began to collapse, reality snapping back into proper alignment. The chairman's corrupted form disintegrated as the void's influence was severed, his last scream cut short by returning physics. Throughout the Galactic Council spire, void-touched entities crumbled to ash. When it was over, Kai and Naira stood in the ruined chamber, their enhanced armor smoking but intact. Through the shattered windows, they could see council ships arriving, no longer under corrupted control. "Think they'll believe what happened here?" Kai asked, helping Naira stand as their systems slowly recovered. "They'll have to," she replied, her scales still flickering with residual energy. "Because this was just the beginning. The void harmony will try again. And we'll be ready." Kai's voice held certainty. "Earth and Saran's children, standing together. Just like your ancestors planned." Naira laughed, the sound full of life and future possibilities. "Think your people are ready to learn they're not the only Deathworlders in the galaxy? Are you ready to help rebuild your civilization?" he countered, still holding her hand. "With the right partner," she said softly, "I'm ready for anything." As council peacekeepers rushed into the chamber, they stood proud and unafraid. Let the galaxy see them together, two apex predators who had found strength in unity rather than isolation. The void harmony had sought to keep them apart, fearing what would happen when Deathworlders joined forces. Now everyone would know why. In the days that followed, the truth spread across the galaxy. Ancient temples activated, revealing more of the Saranian legacy. Earth's governments and the remaining council members had to accept a new reality: humanity was not alone in its strength, and the greatest threats could only be faced together. Kai and Naira led the way, showing what was possible when Deathworlders united. They established new protocols, trained joint forces, and prepared for the day the void would return. But more importantly, they proved that even the harshest evolutionary paths could lead to something beautiful. As they stood on the observation deck of their new ship, watching stars streak by, Naira traced the battle scars on Kai's armor with scaled fingers. "Your Earth saying was right," she mused. "The harder the fight, the sweeter the victory," he finished, pulling her close. Around them, their enhanced systems hummed in harmony, ancient technology powered by the unconquerable spirit of two worlds that had refused to break their children. The galaxy watched and wondered what would come next. But for two Deathworlders who had found each other against all odds, the future was bright with possibility.